Hi, hello, and welcome to a new video. Often, we as K-pop stans, when mentioning the topics of groups that have matured or kept their same spark but matured their content as they age, we speak about Twice or 17, which are, I think, incredible examples as both groups are in their 10th year of running, 10th year of being in the game, and we saw them from childhood to now in their later 20s, and I think those are both incredible examples. However, today I do want to talk about StayC, which is, I don't think, mentioned a lot, maybe because it's a younger group or because they're just not as popular. So StayC, or as the acronym says, it's Star of a Young Culture, is a fourth-generation girl group that debuted in 2020 in the age that was basically purging for newer groups because of COVID, because nobody could perform, because everything was uncertain and the world simply stopped. And on top of it all, for them, they debuted under a Nugu company, High Up Entertainment. And StayC is such a phenomenon of fourth gen that I think newer stans are kind of keen on forgetting how much character these girls have because they have gotten into the game a little later. StayC was, like I said, from an unknown Nugu company and yet managed to skyrocket, and for a while they went head to head at a point with groups like ITZY, Idol, aespa, IZ*ONE back then, because back then IZ*ONE was still a group. For example, their third single, Stereotype, debuted at number 32 on the Melon chart, which does not sound that impressive in nowadays of Hybe's empire, which is, there was a Hybe empire even then, but it's a different thing. And a Nugu group debuting at number 32 on Melon is incredibly impressive. StayC was, like I said, for a good while on top of the fourth generation girl group game, and fourth generation in general. And their songs like Stereotype, like ASAP, like Run to You, and especially the B-sides of those earlier albums were, while keeping that bubblegum sound, and StayC has a very signature bubblegum sound that feels identical to them, also had meaningful layered lyrics, one that made sense and just evoked deeper feelings. Those are songs that you can still dissect while, yes, being pop or K-pop. And on top of that, which I think made them unforgettable, the girls all have such unique vocals, such unique voices and tones and colors that it's easy to notice a StayC song simply because of the way they sound and the signature production. Their formula worked and gained them more and more fans up until Beautiful Monster, which was released in 2023, I'm pretty sure. And in my opinion, Beautiful Monster is not only a great song, but it does follow the StayC formula. Like, I don't see it as much of a deviation after a Run to You. I feel like it's a natural progression. However, with Beautiful Monster, they slightly deviated from the image and the formula they had, and as it's been 2 years, it was in 2022, as it's been 2 years since their debut by then, and for some reason the general public, which is always keen on replacing girl groups with another girl group, treated it almost as if it was an entire genre change, almost as if they completely transformed and released something unacceptable, and Beautiful Monster was very hated or disliked, shall I say, amongst K-pop stans. Between Beautiful Monster and their next single, they only had one Japanese one, which was Poppy, and Poppy was their Japanese debut, which was the most bubblegum sounding bubblegum K-pop song I think anyone has released since the days of early Twice. And after 7 months after Beautiful Monster, they released Teddy Bear, which not only leaned into the StayC formula, but was almost not even teen crush, which was a concept pioneered by StayC and ITZY mostly, a special sound of girl crush, like for example the early StayC songs I just mentioned, and ITZY Wannabe, ITZY Not Shy, early ITZY. That was still a concept, while Teddy Bear was almost kid fresh or kid crush from how bubblegummy bubbly it is. However, Teddy Bear performed exceptionally on the charts in Korea, and on the same album they released a Korean version of Poppy. As it turned out that Poppy, their Japanese single, gained great streams and recognition by their fan base. It was a very popular song despite it being a Japanese release, and we know that Japanese releases don't always hit the same or are not profitable outside of their Japanese fan bases. Usually Japanese songs are not very well regarded by any group. But regardless, I assume that because of the success of Teddy Bear, their 2023 August album, which was only 6 months after Teddy Bear, was very, maybe on the nose, called Teen Fresh. And its title track, Bubble, which I'm sure you probably remember, was an incredibly also teen fresh, bubbly, almost kiddie, juvenile song. It also performed exceptionally domestically. It was their second highest debut ever after Stereotype. And by then, however, the fifth gen crowd started forming. They took a very long break, which between they released one Japanese song, which did not follow the bubblegummy, poppy, happy-go-lucky sound that Teddy Bear, Poppy, and Bubble had. And between their Korean comebacks, there was a year gap. And so in July of 2024, which is when I think they committed to the change, when they realized they could not keep up the formula forever and decided to do something experimental, they released their first full album, Metamorphosis, which has an incredibly cool concept as an album itself. I think you should look into it. The album art is beautiful. It was a full 14-track album with the lead single, Cheeky Icy Tang, which is a very polarizing song amongst K-pop stans, because people either love it or hate it. And while this was fun and had the quirky elements of the StayC formula, it was, like I said, a lot more experimental and very different from what they released previously. Now, my personal opinion, I don't like Cheeky Icy Tang. I don't think it's my style, but I do think it's a very brave and very original thing they actually done, especially since by then the fifth gen crowd started rolling in. However, with that crowd starting rolling in and newer and newer K-pop stars that are becoming, the way that the community is changing, their next single, which was released a few months later, GPT, was, I would not say flopped, but it is the best word I can use. While GPT, I think, if it was not released by StayC, if it was picked up by maybe Eyelet or someone else, would be a very popular single, because it followed all the popular trends, or as they call it, the New Jeans formula. And the music video was beautiful, their vocals were actually good, and it had that chill, nostalgic vibe that many groups are going for. However, I do respect that both the company and the girls were not discouraged by this. And their next single, Bebe, which was released this year, I'm pretty sure in March, went completely out of their mold with a mature, bold, striking song. It has a completely different production. It is their most mature thing yet, and has a lot of talk singing. I covered it in my monthly review of March songs. I'm going to link that above if you do want my full opinion on it. But it was a very different song for StayC in general. Now, what actually inspired today's video, and considering they have not released anything Korean since then, they released a Japanese version of Bebe, which interestingly is performing better than the Korean version. What inspired today's video is that today StayC released I Want It, a single. I have not listened to the entire 3 songs on the mini, but I have listened to the single, which inspired, like I said, the topic of today's video, as it kind of follows the trend of summer songs, and it is an empowering song, which kind of follows, like I said, that trend. It has this StayC usual element, especially in the chorus, that it's kind of nonsensical, and the English lyrics, which was a K-pop staple for a while, but has flown out of fashion in the newer generations. But it also is deviating from the formula. It is also a more mature release, focusing on girl empowerment, focusing on dismissing almost love, and focusing on what they want. While the production is very fun, very summery, and the music video has very summer vibes. They are all dressed in summer clothes. I think it's great, despite the fact that the previous 2 or 3 eras were lower in sales, lower in streams, lower in hype in general. The girls are given different songs and concepts that fit the fact that they are 5 years older. We have to remember that when they debuted, Jay, who is the youngest, or the maknae, was 15, and Seon, who was the oldest, was 18. And currently they are 20, soon to be 21, and 23, soon to be 24. So it makes sense that with age their concepts change, and they cannot sing so bad, which was their debut, forever. And it's still, I think, what's impressive and what makes them feel to me, and a similar link to Twice in 17, is that while yes, they changed their concept, it still can be heard as StayC. And like I said earlier in the video, it is helped by the fact that their vocals have such a strong imprint, such a strong signature, that you can hear it's a StayC song even if it has a completely different direction. Their vocal tones and colors are completely unique to them. But also, I think it did keep some of the producing elements that made early StayC what it was, while, like I said, it matured. I do hope, which is why I made this entire video, that you do give it a listen, because StayC always deserved more hype. And the way they climbed out of the no-go trenches and basically into the top of the tops in 2022, 2023, 2021 meant because they do have quality. They are unique, they are very fun, their songs are actually very good, and the girls do try their hardest to work on them. And I do think StayC still has that spark, if you will. I cannot make a better distinction. They are still very much on top of their game if you do give them a listen, just because they are not as popular anymore. So yes, I would not call it StayC's downfall, but simply a concept change, and the lower of their public image is unfortunately a consequence of the fact that K-pop always has to have a shiny new thing, and K-pop stans will get attached to their newest group easily, and the ones they were casually listening up until a few months ago is suddenly dismissed and discarded, which I think is a stupid concept in general. If you do like the music won't change as much. But with that is the reason why I believe StayC will have longevity in general, because their sound and their vibe remains despite whether they decide to follow trends, lean into popularity, or attempt something completely new. As for the single I Wanted, I think it's fun, I think it's very summery, and we were missing a few good K-pop summer songs, even if to me, currently this is for kind of fill that role. I think I Wanted can go toe-to-toe with it. Well, maybe not toe-to-toe, but it's equally a good song. And I do think, like I said, you should give it a listen if you like. It's very fun, and the music video is very well executed. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next one.